Kang Bit-na touched the leader's forehead, seeing the brutal murder unfold. Shocked by the killer's face, she did not reveal the identity to Han Da-on. At the team leader's memorial, Han Da-on, unable to contain his anger, tore up his prepared speech, vowing to personally kill the criminal. As Han Da-on screamed in agony, Kang Bit-na, moved by his emotion, cried, her tears mixing with the rain. A female assistant observing her couldn't distinguish between the rain and tears. To prove Kang Bit-na's love for Han Da-on, the assistant coerced a male assistant to spy on her, reporting any tears she shed. When he questioned her betrayal, she revealed a mark on her wrist, indicating that as a demon, she was to identify traitorous demons with human emotions. Confused about why she cried, Kang Bit-na suspected an eye problem and visited an ophthalmologist, who found no issues and suggested considering the emotional context of her tears. Reflecting deeply, she realized that seeing Han Da-on's pain felt like a blow to her heart, diagnosing her feelings as compassion and love, a demon turning human. After the team leader's death, new leadership was appointed to continue investigations. A male officer, suspicious of Kang Bit-na since all acquitted suspects she judged died mysteriously, confronted Han Da-on, who defended her, arguing the diversity of cases she handled daily. Their argument led Han Da-on to angrily leave, with Young Moon-jae comforting him, seemingly to mend relations but actually probing his relationship with Kang Bit-na. Kang Bit-na, lacking appetite, was reminded by a colleague to eat well, especially when tired, making her worry about Han Da-on's eating habits. She invited him to a restaurant, feeding him in a human-like manner. When Han Da-on overheard a gossip about the team leader's death, he confronted the speaker. As someone tried to take a photo, Kang Bit-na, fearing legal repercussions for Han Da-on, smashed the phone and pulled him away, her actions irrational yet protective. Kang Bit-na, reminding herself to control her impulses, missed the female assistant who interpreted their actions as a date. She then sent Hell engineers with the leader's photo to inquire if his or Han Da-on's family were in Hell, a task complicated without family photos. Kang Bit-na warned the two that she knew exactly what they had done for humanity and could dispose of them if they did not obey orders. Han Da-on and Kang Bit-na analyzed the identity of a serial killer. Kang Bit-na asked Han Da-on to recall the scene when his family was murdered years ago. Han Da-on recounted that when he returned home, the entire room smelled of blood. His mother had died holding a telephone, his father had collapsed on the ground, covered in blood, holding his deceased brother. These memories had always haunted him. Kang Bit-na felt Han Da-on's grief and unconsciously started crying. A male assistant, shocked by this, quickly informed a female assistant. When asked about the atmosphere between Kang Bit-na and Han Da-on, the male assistant described it as somewhat romantic. That evening, Kang Bit-na was restless and could not sleep. Suddenly, someone kicked her from behind. Turning around, she saw an old lady standing by the bed. Kang Bit-na chased after her, only to encounter the old lady again, warning her not to move. She climbed a ladder to confront her, but at that moment, the old lady transformed. Glowing with light and growing large wings, turning into a handsome young man who flew down. Kang Bit-na drew a blade and demanded the young man reveal his name. With a gentle action, he disarmed her. The young man introduced himself as Gabriel, an angel sent to protect the good and the poor, having come to earth in the name of God. Gabriel had taken on various identities to help those in need. As a police officer, he had been part of the investigation into the murder of Han Da-on's family. He had heard the soul of Han Da-on's mother praying for her son's protection, and had ensured Han Da-on was adopted by the team leader. Gabriel could only protect the innocent and the pitiful. And since Han Da-on had decided to kill, Gabriel could no longer protect him. Now only Kang Bit-na could protect Han Da-on. Gabriel had prophesied that one of them would die, a prophecy that never failed. Whether to protect Han Da-on was Kang Bit-na's choice. Kang Bit-na was very conflicted and unsure whether to believe Gabriel's words. Meanwhile, in an apartment, a big sister was taking care of a child for a single mother. The boy wanted to go to the bathroom after eating, and was turning the doorknob when the big sister suddenly appeared behind him and fiercely warned him not to open the door. Upon hearing the boy thought it was the bathroom, she resumed her usual demeanor. The single mother came to thank the big sister as the TV broadcast news of the serial killer reappearing after 25 years. Seeing the news, the big sister's cup suddenly fell to the ground, her face expressionless. The next day, Young Son-ho, the second son of Congressman Young, was speeding in his car. Gabriel, concerned about students crossing the road, deliberately scattered cardboard on the ground to slow them down. Young Son-ho's car did not harm any students but collided with another vehicle. He was arrested for traffic safety offenses. Congressman Young immediately summoned Kang Bit-na, asking her to declare his son not guilty. Kang Bit-na directly stated that Young Son-ho would receive a 4-year suspended sentence. Congressman Young was pleased, recognizing Kang Bit-na's intelligence without needing further explanation. During the trial of Young Son-ho, he admitted to his crimes. Kang Bit-na approached him, asking him to look into her eyes. In that moment of eye contact, she questioned him about committing murder. It was revealed that Kang Bit-na, when touching the team leader's forehead, saw Young Son-ho as the killer. She announced that the case would be re-examined at the next hearing. Kang Bit-na returned home and encountered Han Da-on, noticing the injuries on his face. Earlier that day, Han Da-on had had an argument with a colleague who punched him. Kang Bit-na tenderly treated his wound. Suddenly, Han Da-on grabbed her hand, looking into her eyes and moving closer, causing Kang Bit-na's heart to race and leaving her flustered. Kang Bit-na repeatedly told Han Da-on that she was a demon and they should not be together. Han Da-on, holding a lip balm, reminded her that she had applied the wrong medication. Kang Bit-na quickly wiped off the lip balm from Han Da-on's lips and ran out of the room, while Han Da-on, noticing her embarrassment, couldn't help but laugh. The next day, a report was made that a surveillance camera captured the moment of the president's death. Han Da-on and Young Moon-jae investigated the video, which Han Da-on worried might be detrimental to Kang Bit-na. Taking advantage of Young Moon-jae's absence in the restroom, Han Da-on deleted the video. However, Young Moon-jae exposed his actions, since it was a trap set by him, catching Han Da-on in a compromising situation and threatening him to comply. That evening, Kang Bit-na saw Young Moon-jae approaching her on her way home. A female assistant summoned the demon Lord Bile, complaining about a human named Han Da-on, who was hindering Kang Bit-na's activities on Earth. Bile ordered the demon Paimon to kill Han Da-on. Paimon, possessing the body of a detective who had died on duty, began investigating the relationship between Han Da-on and Kang Bit-na, intending not only to kill Han Da-on, but also to kill Kang Bit-na, with whom he had a 400-year-old grudge. The naive female assistant thought that by eliminating Han Da-on, Kang Bit-na would remain the decisive demon she once was, emphasizing that only Han Da-on should be killed, not harming Kang Bit-na. Unbeknownst to her, the situation was already beyond her control. Han Da-on informed Kang Bit-na about Young Moon-jae using the surveillance footage to threaten him. Kang Bit-na quickly arranged a meeting with the other party. Paimon greeted Kang Bit-na, saying it had been a long time, but she did not recognize her old nemesis. Kang Bit-na warned Paimon that the police could come after her, but they should not trouble Han Da-on. Hearing this confirmed Paimon's suspicion of Kang Bit-na's special feelings for Han Da-on, which made him smile maliciously. At the subsequent trial of Young Son-ho, Kang Bit-na sentenced him to 2 years in prison with a 4-year suspension. The female assistant excitedly stated that it was now their turn to judge Young Son-ho. However, Kang Bit-na directly stated that she only saw Young Son-ho standing beside the deceased team leader, not seeing him commit murder. Moreover, the serial killer had never used a gun, so she needed to be cautious. After returning home, Kang Bit-na began analyzing the identity of the serial killer. She wanted to kill him quickly to avenge Han Da-on. She remembered Gabriel's words, that she was the only one who could protect Han Da-on. She arranged to meet Gabriel to ask how exactly she should protect Han Da-on. Gabriel repeated that one of them would definitely die. Kang Bit-na believed that if she completed her mission and returned to hell, it would mean her physical body had died, allowing Han Da-on to live. However, Gabriel refused to reveal any information, which infuriated Kang Bit-na. She yelled at Gabriel, and a passerby, unable to watch anymore, accused Kang Bit-na of abusing an elderly person. Pretending to be an abused elder, Gabriel left with the help of the passerby. Kang Bit-na was both angry and powerless. Kang Bit-na and Han Da-on continued to investigate the serial killings. They discovered that the killer would sever different body parts of the victims. Kang Bit-na suddenly realized the serial killer was Satan, who had been the second leader in Hell, but had rebelled and stolen the first leader's treasure, escaping to the human world. Since then, Satan and the treasure had disappeared. They believed Satan was hiding in a human body, but since humans undergo birth, aging, sickness, and death, Satan would also die. However, two things could make Satan immortal: different body parts of a righteous person, and the treasure in Satan's possession. Kang Bit-na decided to first visit the victims' families. Before this, Paimon threatened Han Da-on again, wanting to know to what extent Han Da-on would go to protect Kang Bit-na. He still had the surveillance video and demanded an answer from Han Da-on quickly. Meanwhile, the Hell engineers Kang Bit-na had sent out returned with information about the deceased team leader and Han Da-on's family members. Kang Bit-na and Han Da-on visited a victim's family, where hatred had not faded even after more than 20 years since the case was beyond the statute of limitations. One of the family members was an apartment manager whose locked room was where her tragically deceased son had lived. She was a single mother, who had raised 2 children alone. Before going to work that day, she had given her son money to buy breakfast to eat with his sister. During her shift, she received a call that her son had been murdered, a blow she couldn't accept. For over 20 years, she had refused to move, waiting for the killer to reappear and seek justice for her son. Moved by the manager's story of her son's tragic loss, Kang Bit-na ran out, overwhelmed with pain. Han Da-on followed her to ask if she was alright. Kang Bit-na felt that Han Da-on was the one who needed comfort, as the last victim's family they visited was his. They went to Han Da-on's house, where Han Da-on didn't even have the courage to push open the door. Kang Bit-na entered first, having heard Han Da-on's account of his parents' and brothers' deaths. Inside the crime scene, she saw Han Da-on's mother lying in a pool of blood, telling Han Da-on to run while a young Han Da-on hid helplessly in a corner of the room, with his mother's soulful prayers echoing in her ears. Kang Bit-na couldn't control her sadness and cried again. She told Han Da-on that their team leader and his family had gone to heaven after they died. Han Da-on felt regretful as he might not be able to meet them since he was destined for hell. Kang Bit-na promised she would never let that happen, vowing to find and kill the culprit herself. That night, Kang Bit-na went to a nightclub to find young Son-ho. She confronted him, accusing him of being Satan and the serial killer hiding in a human body. However, young Son-ho was confused and swore on his deceased mother that he was neither Satan nor aware of any serial killer. He told Kang Bit-na she could kill him if she doubted him, as his life was already ruined. Meanwhile, Han Da-on was reflecting on Kang Bit-na's care and protection, feeling warmth in his heart. He sent a message to Paimon, ready to answer what extent he would go for Kang Bit-na. Just then, he received a call for help from Kang Bit-na. He rushed to her location, unaware it was a trap set up by the male assistant under Paimon's orders. The assistant had stolen Kang Bit-na's phone and imitated her voice to lure Han Da-on. Feeling guilty, the male assistant went to confess at a church. After leaving, he decided to warn Kang Bit-na, but the female assistant blocked him, determined not to disrupt their plan to kill Han Da-on. The male assistant threw a handful of sulfur powder at her and ran to find Kang Bit-na, frantically knocking on the door with no response. As he wondered where to find Kang Bit-na, Gabriel suddenly appeared. In the nightclub, a man dragged Kang Bit-na into a private room. Just as she was about to react, the man transformed into Gabriel. Gabriel left, and the male assistant knelt down, begging Kang Bit-na to hurry and save Han Da-on. By then, Han Da-on realized it was a setup, but it was too late. He and Paimon began fighting, and after a few rounds, Han Da-on was knocked down. Just as Paimon was about to kill him with a weapon, Kang Bit-na arrived in time and threw Paimon out. Assuring that Han Da-on was safe, Kang Bit-na told him to stay put while she dealt with Paimon. Despite 400 years, Paimon was no match for Kang Bit-na and was beaten helplessly on the ground. Just as Kang Bit-na was about to end Paimon's life, he uttered a spell. Suddenly, the scene changed to Han Da-on's house, and Paimon transformed into Han Da-on, attacking Kang Bit-na. Caught in the illusion, she couldn't bring herself to harm Han Da-on and was quickly defeated. The fake Han Da-on summoned a weapon, and with an evil smile, thrust it towards Kang Bit-na. Just then, Han Da-on shouted her name, and Paimon returned to his original form. Kang Bit-na woke from the illusion and swiftly dealt with Paimon, pinning him to the wall with his own weapon. After defeating Paimon, Kang Bit-na embraced Han Da-on, relieved that he was safe. However, in that moment, Paimon suddenly appeared behind Kang Bit-na with a weapon. To protect Kang Bit-na, Han Da-on embraced her and swapped positions, taking the fatal blow for her. Paimon, injured by Kang Bit-na, did not die. He pulled out his blade, aiming for a fatal blow to Kang Bit-na. Han Da-on shielded her in his arms. At that critical moment, a female assistant appeared and knocked down Paimon. Kang Bit-na, resenting anyone who might harm Han Da-on, ended Paimon's life in front of him. She thought Han Da-on would feel uneasy, but he wiped the blood from her face instead.